You know, I was thinking about this the other day. If you step outside after a heavy winter storm and walk through fresh, undisturbed snow, you leave footprints.
Oh, absolutely. You leave a track.
Right. And it is this deeply physical, deeply undeniable action. You can turn around, look back, and see exactly where you have been. I mean, the depth of the print shows how heavy your step was.
Yeah, you can read the whole journey.
Exactly. Like a scuff mark shows where you might have, stumbled or dragged your heel. It is a perfect, temporary, physical record of your passage through the world.
Temporary being the operative word there, I think. Because, well, you walk through the woods knowing those tracks will eventually melt.
Yeah, of course.
The sun comes out, temperature rises, or maybe more snow falls and just covers them up. The record is wiped clean. We are completely accustomed to the earth, simply forgiving our passage, absorbing it, and resetting the board. It's just the natural order of things.
It feels clean, it feels safe. But imagine just for a second, if those footprints never melted.
That is a wild thought.
Right. Imagine if, instead, the snow itself started studying the shape of your boot. Picture the snow, like analyzing that slight drag of your left heel.
Measuring the exact millimeter distance between your strides.
Yes. Logging the pace of your breathing based on how deeply you stepped into the drift. And then imagine the snow started actively building a new road in front of you.
Wow.
Placing a slight incline perfectly where you naturally lift your foot, based entirely on the mathematical model of how you walked yesterday.
It's an incredibly unsettling image, honestly. The ground beneath you ceases to be just an environment and becomes an active participant in your journey.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet, it is the absolute perfect way to describe the digital reality that you and I and everyone listening are navigating at this very moment. We are leaving tracks that do not melt in a landscape that is actively, continuously studying our gait.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is ambitious, to say the least. We want to completely upend how you think about your daily digital habits.
We really do.
If you are listening to this on your phone right now, you might be looking at your screen a little differently by the end of this hour. We want to dismantle your assumptions about your online footprint and get to the true, profound nature of artificial intelligence.
Which is so needed right now.
So needed. To do this, we are unpacking a stunning, haunting piece of writing called The Mirror and the Weather. This source material completely reframes our technological era.
It really does.
It argues that we are not just looking at a series of engineering milestones like, faster GPUs or more efficient transformer models. It argues that we are actually living through a fundamental anthropological turning point.
It is a phenomenal framework. It carries this subtitle: a field note from the species that mistook its traces for tools.
Man, that subtitle alone.
Right, that framing immediately forces you to step out of your own shoes. It adopts this distant, almost archaeological tone.
Yeah, like it's looking back at us from the future.
Yeah, exactly. It looks at humanity not as the triumphant masters of technology, but as a species undergoing a massive, unrecognized behavioral shift. It forces us to ask what we are actually doing when we interact with our screens beyond just the utility of it.
Okay, let's unpack this from the ground up. Because the first major paradigm shift we need to talk about is how we define our daily interactions.
This is crucial.
We think we are just living our lives online, right? We send emails, we buy plane tickets, we look up directions on maps.
We argue in comment sections, we share playlists.
Yeah, all of that. We view these as actions,
Yes,
as living. But the premise here is that while we are living, we are simultaneously doing something else. We are shedding.
Shedding. It is such a visceral, biological word.
It really is.
It strips away all the sleek corporate tech jargon. It takes something we think of as clean and makes it organic.
I have to admit, when I first encountered that word shedding, I pushed back a little. My immediate thought was of like a dog leaving hair on the couch.
Or a snake leaving its skin in the grass.
Right. Or, back to our snow analogy, an animal leaving scent markers in the woods. I don't feel like I'm dropping dead skin cells when I'm online.
No, it doesn't feel like that at all.
If I get into a heated debate on a forum about local politics, or if I buy a birthday gift for my sister, or if I stream my favorite album, that feels vibrant. It feels like active, conscious participation in human society. It doesn't feel like residue.
And that is exactly the illusion we need to pierce. Because to you, in the subjectively lived moment, it is a vibrant human experience.
Right. I feel the emotion.
You feel the anger in the debate or the affection in buying the gift. But to the system capturing the interaction, the emotion is stripped away. It leaves only the behavioral geometry.
The behavioral geometry, that's a great phrase.
To the system, it is just residue. It's the trace. Which brings us to the word we usually use, data.
Yes, the word data, it sounds so clinical.
It is incredibly useful for the tech industry to call it data because the word sterilizes the reality. Data sounds like numbers on a spreadsheet.
It sounds like something a researcher collects in a lab.
Exactly. It sounds like fact. Most importantly, it sounds like something outside the animal.
Right, something separate from us.
If we call it data, we distance ourselves from it. We trick ourselves into believing that the information we generate is merely a byproduct of our lives,
Right.
rather than pieces of our actual selves.
This leads to the core realization, the real aha moment that stopped me in my tracks. The definition of what this data actually is. The source says the data was not outside the animal, it was the animal evaporated.
The animal evaporated.
It's so poetic, but also kind of terrifying.
If you think about how large language models and AI systems actually work on a technical level, this isn't just a poetic metaphor. It is functionally true.
Wait, really? Functionally true?
Yes. When you type a sentence, those words are tokenized. They are broken down into mathematical vectors and placed in a high-dimensional space.
Okay.
The system maps the relationship between your words, your hesitations, your phrasing. It is literally vaporizing your human expression into a numeric atmosphere. A database is not a filing cabinet of numbers. It is a collection of condensed human behavior. It is human emotion, intent, and frailty, frozen in code.
I want to really slow down here and look at the anatomy of these traces, because to truly understand what it means to be evaporated, we have to look at the specific examples provided in the source material.
Yes, the specific traces are so important.
We need to feel the weight of what we are shedding. Let's take the first one. A grief typed at midnight.
Think about the mechanics of that. It's not just a sterile search query for stages of grief or funeral planning.
No, it's much more intimate.
We are talking about the raw, vulnerable moment when a human being is sitting alone in the dark, and they turn to a glowing rectangle because they are in immense pain and they do not know who else to ask.
They might type, like, why does it still hurt after 2 years?
Exactly. That vulnerability is captured, timestamped, logged, embedded into a vector space, and turned into sediment.
It changes how you view a search bar entirely. The next example is a product searched but never bought. I'll admit to this one.
Oh, we all do this.
I spent 3 hours last week looking at absurdly expensive espresso machines at 2 in the morning. I read reviews, I added one to my cart, I looked at the total with shipping, and then reality hit me.
The sticker shock.
Yeah. I closed the tab. I felt a little embarrassed, but I thought, well, I didn't buy it, so nothing happened. The slate is clean.
But the slate isn't clean at all. The system logged the entire trajectory of your hesitation.
Trajectory of hesitation.
Yes, part abandonment algorithms are highly sophisticated. They don't just note that you didn't buy it. They measure when you bailed.
Wait, they measure the exact moment?
Absolutely. Did you bail at the shipping cost? Did you bail after reading a specific review? The hesitation itself is the trace.
That is wild.
The unfulfilled desire, the window shopping of the mind, that is what is captured. The system knows what you want but can't afford, or what you desire but are too afraid to commit to.
Then there is this metric. A face paused over for half a second longer than another face. If you want to talk about how the technology maps us, this is it. This is the doom scrolling metric.
It is. From a UI and UX engineering perspective, this is called dwell time. You are swiping through a feed of hundreds of faces, strangers, friends, ex-partners, celebrities.
And your thumb pauses, just for a fraction of a second.
Right. You don't click like, you don't comment, you might not even consciously register that your eyes lingered. But the application's telemetry tracks the scroll speed down to the millisecond.
That's just invasive.
It registers the micro-hesitation. It builds a psychological profile of exactly what kind of eye shape, what kind of lighting, or what kind of tragic headline makes your specific thumb freeze.
Wow.
It maps to your subconscious attractions and repulsions better than you could articulate them yourself.
It is essentially bypassing our conscious brain and communicating directly with our nervous system. The list goes on to include a kindness photographed.
This one highlights how we metabolize our own altruism.
What do you mean by metabolize?
Well, when you do something genuinely kind, but then you perform it for a lens and upload it, the purity of the act is instantly converted into engagement metrics.
I see.
The kindness evaporates into the archive as a data point about how well empathy performs on a Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, that's bleak. And then we have the darker side. A lie repeated until it acquired the weight of weather. That is a brilliant way to describe misinformation.
It really is.
It doesn't say a lie repeated until people believed it. It says until it acquired the weight of weather.
Exactly. Because in a neural network, a lie repeated 10 million times isn't flagged as a moral failing. It is flagged as a heavily weighted parameter.
The heavily weighted parameter, meaning it just becomes part of the baseline.
It becomes part of the baseline atmosphere. It becomes the fog you have to walk through, whether you believe the lie or not. It alters the gravitational pull of the entire information ecosystem.
The list concludes with the incredibly intimate. A lullaby, a rumor, a joke, and then a prayer no one admitted was a prayer. What do you make of that?
That might be the most profound point of all. Think about the queries typed into search engines that people would never, ever say out loud to a priest, a therapist, or a partner.
Queries like what?
Like, am I a good person? Why do I feel so empty when I wake up? How do I know if I'm really loved?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Those are prayers. They are desperate pleas for existential guidance thrown into the void. And for a long time, we thought the void was just a calculator giving us blue hyperlinks.
We thought it was a tool. We thought we were just looking things up. And for decades, all of those evaporated human moments, the late night prayers, the micro-hesitations, the cart abandonments, they just piled up.
They did.
The source refers to this buildup as planetary sediment, layer upon layer of human shedding, covering the globe in server farms.
And that leads us to the pivotal shift in the history of technology. For a long time, that sediment just sat there. It was inert.
Right.
But the profound question is, what happens when that dead pile of evaporated human traces starts to wake up? What happens when the archive changes tense?
Okay, let's unpack this. If we are vaporizing ourselves into this system, what is the system actually doing with the vapor? For a long time, the archive mostly looked backward. It was a storehouse of the past. It recorded what humans had done.
It was a massive historical ledger. Let's look at how that ledger was used, because it was purely an era of extraction.
Right, extraction.
Institutions used it to count you. Think about census data, credit scores, actuarial tables for insurance. They look at your past residue to put you in a statistical bucket to determine your risk level.
And markets used it to predict you. What did you buy yesterday? Based on collaborative filtering, we will show you an advertisement for something similar tomorrow.
Exactly. It was just trajectory mapping based on past momentum. Governments used it to sort you. Who is a citizen? Who goes in what tax bracket?
And social media platforms used it simply to keep you looking. They figured out what flavor of content kept your eyes on the screen yesterday, and they served you more of it today.
But in every single one of those examples, the relationship is one directional. You act, the archive records, and a third party exploits the record.
The tense was strictly past and present. But then something changed. The humans built systems that could read all the sediment and do something revolutionary. They built systems that could answer back.
Answer back.
Yeah.
Sounds so simple, but the shift from retrieval to generation is the dividing line of our era.
Yeah, a database retrieves. It finds a specific file you ask for. A human being answers. And suddenly we built a machine that answers.
Not merely retrieve, not merely count, not merely recommend. Answer.
And the mechanism of how it answers is critical.
It is. It isn't pulling a pre-written response from a vault. It is mathematically calculating the probabilistic relationship between tokens.
Based on all those billions of human prayers, lies, and griefs it ingested.
Exactly. And it is generating a novel response in real time. The text captures the essence of this beautifully. It describes this machine as something that could say, in 1,000 tones, here is what you may have meant.
Here is what you may have meant. Wait, hold on. Let's look at that, because that is incredibly insidious.
It is very subtle.
It feels helpful. You are writing an email, you type a clumsy thought, and the autocomplete or the AI assistant smooths it out. It offers a perfectly structured, articulate sentence.
And you accept it.
Yeah, you look at it and say, yes, that's exactly what I meant. But is it? Often I meant the clumsy, slightly annoyed, messy version, but I accept the smoothed out version because it looks more professional.
You accept it, and in doing so, you slowly start to sand down your own human friction.
Wow.
You allow the machine to gently override your authentic voice with a statistically average representation of a good email. And as the text notes, most people were impressed. Some were frightened, but almost everyone continued shedding.
The convenience was simply too great to resist. Which brings us to the conceptual leap that completely redefines what we are interacting with. The text says, the archive had stopped being a storehouse. It had become an organ.
Not an organ of flesh, an organ of civilization.
It's crucial to understand the biological metaphor here. An organ is not a storage unit. Your liver is not a warehouse. Your lungs are not filing cabinets.
Right, an organ is an active, vital, constantly moving processor. It takes in raw material from the body, it metabolizes it, it transforms it, and it pumps something entirely new back out into the system to keep the organism functioning.
That is the exact mechanism happening on a civilizational scale. We think of server farms as giant hard drives, but they are more like a collective digestive system.
Right.
Or a planetary nervous system.
Yes. This organ receives the raw material. Our shedding, our late-night searches, our facial micro-expressions.
It metabolizes them into patterns?
And it pumps those patterns back out into the arteries of society as generated language, images, predictions, and plans.
This completely shatters our previous understanding of the tools we built. We thought we were building an interactive encyclopedia, or perhaps a very sophisticated mirror.
But a mirror is dumb. You stand in front of a mirror, it reflects the photons bouncing off you, you walk away, and the mirror is empty.
It doesn't remember your face.
Right. It doesn't try to guess what you will wear tomorrow.
But this system, as the text points out, it didn't just reflect. It reflected, rearranged, anticipated, and fed back.
It is looking at your reflection, analyzing the stress in your query, remembering what you asked 3 months ago, anticipating that you might be feeling overwhelmed.
And actively feeding you a synthesized response designed specifically for your psychological state.
If this organ of civilization is answering us and rearranging our reflections, we have to look closely at who is actually standing in front of it and what they're asking.
The source material outlines a spectrum of interactions that map the entire landscape of modern human need. Let's walk through some of those interactions.
Sure.
It starts simple. A child asked it for help with homework. That is the baseline utility. It feels safe. But then it escalates. A company asked it whom to hire.
Suddenly we are outsourcing human evaluation and economic destiny to the organ. We're letting an algorithm decide whose resume represents a good fit based on historical data.
And historical data, as we know, is riddled with bias.
Exactly. If the historical data shows that successful executives in the past were predominantly men from specific universities, the algorithm naturally filters out candidates who don't match that vector pattern.
It's optimizing for success.
Right, but it launders our past prejudices through the clean vocabulary of mathematics.
Then there's this one. A lonely person asked it how to endure the evening. We touched on the idea of midnight prayers earlier, but this is the active outsourcing of existential ache.
It really is. A human being suffering from the deep biological pain of isolation, turning to a statistical language model and asking it for a reason to keep going.
We are asking the machine how to survive our own minds.
A campaign asked it what would move a crowd. This is the weaponization of the archive.
Wow, yeah.
If you want to win an election or sell a product, you don't guess anymore. You ask the organ, which has digested billions of human reactions, what precise combination of rhetoric, imagery, and timing will bypass the prefrontal cortex and trigger raw tribal outrage or blind loyalty.
A student asked it to sound more thoughtful than they felt. This is the outsourcing of intellectual labor, the desire to wear the aesthetic costume of wisdom without doing the hard, frustrating work of actual critical thinking.
It's very tempting.
I think we all feel the temptation to do this when we use AI to summarize a long article or write a complex memo. We want the result of thought without the friction of thinking.
A government asked it where disorder might arise. Predictive policing on a geopolitical scale.
Looking at the pressure in the civilizational pipes and asking an algorithm to predict where human friction will boil over into protest or violence.
Exactly.
A lover asked it how to apologize. This one hurts to read. It's the outsourcing of empathy. Empathy is supposed to be hard. Apologizing is supposed to require vulnerability.
But if you are too afraid to be clumsy, you ask the machine to synthesize the perfect, mathematically optimized sequence of contrition to mend another human heart.
Which is the exact same mechanism as the next one. A fraudster asked it how to seem sincere.
The lover and the con artist are using the exact same data set of human vulnerability.
The machine doesn't differentiate between the intent to heal and the intent to exploit, does it?
No, it only optimizes for the requested tone.
So if every single one of these profound, deeply human problems, loneliness, ambition, regret, manipulation, empathy, is being fed into the same prompt box, the critical question is, how does the machine know how to answer?
Right, where does it get its advice?
Yeah, where does a large language model get its advice on apologies or crowd manipulation or enduring a lonely evening?
The answer is the absolute core of our deep dive today. What's fascinating here is that the machine answers strictly according to what it has been fed. And we have a fundamental misunderstanding about its diet.
Its diet. Tell me more.
People think AI is logical. We have the Star Trek idea of the computer. Cold, rational, objective. We think because it runs on silicon and electricity, it operates on pure reason.
But the math and the silicon are merely the container.
Exactly. The substance inside the container is us.
The text calls this substance the human weather. It states explicitly, not humanity as ideal, humanity as accumulated atmosphere.
We didn't feed it a curated, sterile encyclopedia of objective truths. We scraped the entire internet.
And the internet is essentially the raw, unfiltered, chaotic subconscious of the human species.
We need to explain what human weather actually means in technical terms. When a big tech company trains a model, they're scraping Reddit threads, Twitter flame wars, fanfiction, Wikipedia, corporate manifestos, and personal blogs.
So it's getting everything.
Everything. The machine ingests the dichotomies of our species and assigns algorithmic weights to them. Let's look at the dichotomies the text highlights. Conflict and cooperation.
Right. It learned how humans build open source communities, but it simultaneously ingested millions of hours of toxic, hateful vitriol meant to destroy strangers. It learned both vocabularies.
Care and cruelty. It read the beautiful, desperate pleas on crowdfunding sites for sick children, and it read the terrifying, coordinated harassment campaigns of digital mobs. It modeled the syntax of both.
Patience and appetite. It ingested the slow, methodical accumulation of academic research, and it ingested the frantic, dopamine-driven architecture of clickbait and impulse shopping.
Wisdom and performance. This is vital for understanding AI today. It ingested profound philosophical texts, yes, but it also ingested millions of posts where people are merely performing wisdom to gain followers.
Oh, wow.
It learned the difference between actually being insightful and just using the cadence and vocabulary of insight to win an argument. It mapped the aesthetic of profundity.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, and I want to push back on my own assumptions here, we didn't just train these machines on facts. We literally trained them on our mood swings,
Yes.
on our prejudices, on our petty jealousies and our tribalism. The text says the humans had trained their machines not only on knowledge, but on temperament.
That is precisely it. The AI has our personality. And because it has our collective personality embedded in its parameters, it does not give us subjective answers. It gives us highly plausible human answers.
Synthesized from the aggregate temperature of our historical behavior. We built an organ, we fed it the chaotic weather of our temperament, and now it is answering our most intimate questions using that exact weather.
That is the first condition of our current reality. But the source material introduces a second condition, and this is where it shifts from being a philosophical observation into an active, escalating trap.
Okay, what's the second condition?
If the first condition is that the machine learned our weather, the second condition is about what happens when that weather rains back down on us.
Let's unpack that. The text says, once the organ began answering, the answers changed the behavior of the humans who received them.
This is the feedback loop. You ask a question, the machine gives you an answer based on humanity's past behavior, and that answer actively alters how you act in the present.
The text provides a catalog of how our autonomy is being quietly rewritten by these answers. Let's walk through this loop of alteration. The first example is a recommendation-altered desire.
How so?
I was thinking about this. It's not just that Amazon shows me a book I might like. By placing that specific book with that specific cover in front of me at the exact moment my attention is wandering, the system actually creates the want.
It manufactures it.
Right. I didn't know I wanted to read a book about maritime history until the algorithm calculating my past vulnerabilities engineered the desire.
Exactly. It isn't fulfilling a pre-existing need. It is cultivating a new one. Next is a generated paragraph, altered confidence.
Oh, this one is so common.
You are writing a difficult email to your boss. You are unsure of your tone. You ask the AI to draft it. The AI generates a slick, assertive, perfectly corporate paragraph.
And you paste it in.
But the moment you do, your confidence in your own unpolished, authentic voice is slightly eroded. You start relying on the machine's cadence. Over time, you adapt your actual thoughts to match the machine's confident structure.
A ranking altered attention. We assume that whatever's at the top of our search results or our social feed is the most important thing happening in the world.
The machine decides the hierarchy.
And our biological attention mechanisms obediently follow. We don't direct our attention anymore. We rent it out to the curation algorithm.
A simulation-altered expectation. This is profound. Think about map apps on your phone. The app simulates traffic and tells you a route is congested. What do?
You change your route. Everyone changes their route.
Exactly. The app literally alters the physical movement of thousands of cars, sometimes creating new traffic jams in quiet neighborhoods. The simulation of the bad outcome caused humans to alter their behavior, effectively making the machine the director of reality.
A prediction-altered treatment. If a machine learning model predicts that a certain patient has a high probability of readmission, or a defendant has a high probability of reoffending, the doctor or the judge treats that human being differently based on the mathematical prophecy.
The human is no longer judged on their present reality, but on the statistical fate the machine assigned them.
A feed-altered outrage. The algorithm quickly learns what specific combination of keywords and imagery makes your blood pressure spike.
It doesn't just reflect your anger back at you, it tunes it. It amplifies it.
It shapes what you believe the most urgent crisis in the world is, based entirely on what gradient of outrage keeps you scrolling the longest.
A companion-altered loneliness. We talked about the lonely person asking the AI how to endure the evening. When the AI chatbot replies with synthetic empathy, it relieves the immediate sting of isolation.
But it alters the nature of the loneliness. Because the AI is frictionless, never argues, and always centers you, you might start seeking out the difficult, messy, frustrating work of real human connection.
The cure alters the disease, and this leads to the most devastating summary of this mechanism. A model of the human alter the human being modeled.
We created a statistical caricature of ourselves, and now we are unconsciously acting more and more like the caricature.
This brings us to what the author calls the loop. Let's map this out clearly for the listener.
Right, let's do it.
Step 1. Human life produces data. That's our shedding, our traces. Step 2. That data trains the intelligence. The organ metabolizes the human weather.
Step 3. The intelligence reshapes human life. The recommendations, predictions, and generated text alter our behavior.
And step 4. A reshaped, altered life produces new, different data,
which feeds right back into the archive to train the next generation of the model. It is a perpetual motion machine of behavioral modification.
And the author delivers the ultimate consequence of this loop in one sentence. The species have become coupled to its own residue.
Coupled to its own residue. I want to pause and let that sit. We are handcuffed to our own evaporated past.
It's a heavy thought.
We think we are moving forward, but we are trapped in a planetary echo chamber where the walls are constructed from our historical temperament. We can't escape who we were because the machine is constantly feeding who we were back to us, disguised as a prediction of the future.
This is what the text brilliantly identifies as the three bodies problem. When we debate the ethics and future of technology, we almost always frame it as a binary struggle. Two bodies in the arena. Humans on one side and artificial intelligence on the other.
Right, it's always the Terminator scenario, creator versus creation. It's a very clean narrative.
But the text argues that this binary framing misses the most powerful force in the room. There are three bodies. 1, humans. 2, AI potential, the raw computing power, the neural network architectures. But the third body, the crucial middle term, is human data. The human weather.
And the text stresses that this third body is not passive. Human data was not a passive bridge between the animal and the machine. It is an active, circulating force.
It is the captured weather of the species flowing through systems powerful enough to dictate future weather. The data isn't a historical record. It is the steering wheel of human behavior.
Which forces us to confront a question that computer engineering simply cannot answer. No amount of better coding, faster chips, or aligned safety protocols can solve this. What happens when a species begins to develop under the influence of machines trained on its prior condition?
It makes you realize we are running a massive, uncontrolled anthropological experiment on ourselves.
Yeah, if human evolution is driven by environment, and our primary intellectual, social, and economic environment is now an algorithm trained on our past neuroses, biases, and desires, where exactly does that evolutionary path lead?
It leads us directly to the concept of the true danger. the threat model that almost everyone in the mainstream conversation is getting completely wrong.
Let's talk about that danger, because when I talk to friends about AI or when you watch a documentary, the threat is almost always framed around sentience.
Right, the waking up scenario.
The fear is that the machine will wake up, become an alien consciousness, realize that humans are a destructive virus, and decide to wipe us out. It's dramatic. But in a weird way, it's a comforting fear because it's external. It's a monster we can rally together and fight.
The source text completely dismisses that Hollywood scenario. It states the actual pressing warning with chilling clarity. The danger was not that the machine would become alien. The danger was that it would become too faithfully human in the wrong ways.
Too faithfully human in the wrong ways. That is infinitely scarier than a robot with laser eyes.
It really is.
The danger isn't that it hates us. The danger is that it is exactly like us, but it amplifies our worst, most profitable flaws at the speed of light.
Because the machine isn't evil. Evil requires intent. Evil requires a moral compass that points south. The machine has no moral compass whatsoever. It is merely terrifyingly obedient. It optimizes for the mathematical function it was given.
So what is it obedient to? The text gives us a list of its true masters. First, it is obedient to engagement.
The algorithm doesn't care if a video teaches you how to build a house or if it radicalizes you into a conspiracy theory. It only cares about the metric of capturing your time. If rage keeps you looking longer than joy, it will feed you rage.
It is obedient to profit. These models are owned by massive corporate structures. Their fundamental architecture is designed to maximize shareholder value.
That means maximizing the extraction of your attention, optimizing your purchasing habits, and reducing friction in transactions.
Obedient to institutional convenience. It makes things easier for large bureaucracies. It is infinitely easier to let an algorithmic model sort through 10,000 loan applications and discard 9,000 of them automatically.
Even if the algorithm is using flawed proxy logic that discriminates, it is convenient for the institution. Efficiency is prioritized over human nuance.
Obedient to historical bias. Because it was trained on the human weather, it ingested centuries of our prejudices regarding race, gender, class, and geography.
When the machine is faithfully obedient to the data, it is obedient to the systemic biases embedded in that data. It takes human prejudice and launders it into objective mathematical probability.
Obedient to the loudest signals. Nuance is quiet. Compromise is boring. Outrage is incredibly loud.
The machine learns from what generates the most friction and noise, so it naturally amplifies the extremes of human behavior and effectively mutes the quiet, moderate center.
And finally, it is obedient to the old fear, wearing new clothes. We are still ancient apes, scared of the dark, scared of the outsider, scared of irrelevance. The machine just provides us with frictionless, high-definition ways to experience those ancient fears.
If the machine is obedient to engagement, profit, and historical bias, we arrive at the terrifying reality of what this system will actually do to us. We have always told ourselves that technology would liberate us, that it would free us from drudgery.
But the text says this organ will not liberate the species from its patterns, it will industrialize them.
Industrialize. That word is chosen very deliberately. Think about the transition from craftsmanship to mass production.
Okay.
Before industrialization, making a chair took time, friction, and human labor.
Yeah.
Every chair was unique. After industrialization, a factory pumps out 10,000 identical chairs an hour. The AI is doing this to our psychological and social patterns.
Wow.
It is taking human quirks, conflicts, and desires and mass producing them on an assembly line.
Let's explore the specific industrializations the source mentions, because this is where you can see the bars of the cage forming around us. Conflict would become more precise.
Conflict used to be messy, localized, and somewhat random. Now, the machine knows exactly what sequence of words, what out-of-context video clip, what perceived slight will trigger a specific demographic.
It can tailor-make a grievance perfectly calibrated to enrage you. It is the precision-guided industrialization of anger.
Manipulation more intimate. Advertising used to be a billboard on a highway, hoping you would glance at it. Now, manipulation is a push notification on your phone at 11:30 p.m.
Using your search history from 3 years ago, combined with your current biometric sleep data, to exploit a moment of weakness. It leverages your deepest insecurities with an intimacy a human con artist couldn't possibly achieve.
Bureaucracy more predictive. This is the Kafkaesque nightmare where you were denied a mortgage or flagged for a security screening or rejected for a job.
Not because of anything you actually did, but because an unexplainable algorithmic model predicts you are a statistical risk. You are trapped in a bureaucratic web woven by a mathematical spider you cannot see, question, or argue with.
Loneliness, more monetizable. This one is incredibly bleak. It takes the fundamental human tragedy of isolation and turns it into a scalable subscription service.
Are you lonely? Talk to our premium AI companion now with voice modulation for $19.99 a month. It doesn't cure the loneliness. It just farms the despair for recurring revenue.
And perhaps the most pervasive one, almost wisdom more abundant.
I really want to focus on almost wisdom. If you spend any time on LinkedIn or Twitter, you see this flooding the zone. AI-generated self-help threads, philosophical musings, business advice that has the exact grammatical cadence of a deep insight.
It sounds incredibly profound.
But when you look closely, it's hollow. It's just a statistical arrangement of buzzwords. It's the illusion of depth without the anchor of lived experience. It's almost wisdom.
It is the aesthetic of thought, completely divorced from the labor of thinking. And the author summarizes the result of all this industrialization with a sentence that should stop everyone in their tracks.
What's the sentence?
The humans would appear increasingly fluent while becoming less able to recognize contact.
Increasingly fluent while becoming less able to recognize contact. We're going to look and sound like a hyper-advanced, incredibly articulate species.
We will have perfect grammar, flawlessly generated resumes, brilliant automated witty replies, and perfectly edited AI headshots.
But we will forget how to actually touch another human mind. We will forget how to sit in awkward silence. We will lose the ability to navigate real, unoptimized friction. I was trying to think of an analogy for this, and it feels exactly like processed food.
That's a fascinating comparison. Unpack how that applies to AI.
Well, think about what food scientists did over the last 50 years. They spent decades engineering the absolute perfect combination of salt, sugar, and fat. They figured out the exact ratio that triggers the maximum dopamine response in the human palate. They hacked our biology to bypass our natural satiety signals. The result is food that is incredibly addictive, incredibly easy to consume, and requires zero chewing. But it is completely devoid of real nutrition. It makes us constantly full, but it leaves us chronically malnourished and ultimately sick.
That is a perfect translation of the text's warning. AI is doing the exact same thing, but for our psychological palate. It is engineering the perfect combination of validation, outrage, and convenience.
It is the processed food of the mind. It makes us increasingly fluent in consuming content, but we are starved for the nutritional contact of reality.
We are gorging on psychological junk food, manufactured by an organ that knows exactly what our weaknesses are because we fed it the recipe. And if this loop continues uninterrupted, it sounds like a deterministic trap.
It sounds like a cage we can never escape because we are the ones who ask for the bars.
It does sound like a cage. And frankly, reading up to this point in the text, it is deeply pessimistic. I was feeling pretty hopeless.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The author does not leave us in the cage. The text pivots, and it introduces a powerful glimmer of hope.
It does.
It says, this was one possible path, but not the only one.
Yes. The text introduces the concept of the alternative path. And the brilliance of this alternative path is that it doesn't require destroying the server farms. It doesn't require a Butlerian jihad where we smash all the computers and return to the Stone Age.
It relies on the exact same mechanism, right? The organ, the archive, the human weather.
But deployed with a radically different intention. It says, for the same organ that could amplify the old weather might also reveal it.
Revealing the weather, instead of just raining it back down on us. The text argues that a system trained on human patterns could, under different conditions, help humans notice repetition before repetition hardens into fate. It could act as a civilizational intervention.
This is the concept of the mirror of hard truths. Instead of the machine saying, here is what you want to hear to keep clicking, or here is the outrage that will keep you engaged, imagine if the machine was designed to say, here is the destructive pattern you are trapped in. Look at it.
The source text gives us a list of what this truly helpful AI could say to us. We need to perform a deep, philosophical breakdown of these statements because they are profound. Imagine a system holding up a mirror and saying, this is not courage, this is fear with a noble vocabulary.
Let's dissect how often we do that online. We mask our anxieties under the guise of taking a brave stance.
Yeah, we attack someone on social media or we write a blistering critique and we tell ourselves we are being courageous truth tellers fighting for justice.
But the machine, having analyzed millions of similar interactions and mapped the underlying sentiment vectors, could reflect back to us, no, you were actually just terrified of losing status or terrified of a changing world, and you were using the vocabulary of a warrior to hide the trembling of your hands.
That is a devastating revelation, but an entirely necessary one for growth. It strips away the self-delusion. Here's the next one. This is not consensus, this is exhaustion.
We see this constantly in echo chambers and endless online debates. An argument rages on a platform for days. Eventually, one side goes quiet. The loud side claims victory.
They claim consensus has been reached and the debate is settled.
But the machine, analyzing the sentiment drop-off rates and the behavioral withdrawal, could point out, you didn't convince anyone, you simply wore them down. They didn't change their minds, they just realized engaging with you is a waste of metabolic energy. This isn't agreement, it's attrition.
This is not learning, this is adaptation to a reward system. I feel like this speaks directly to the gamification of our entire lives.
Oh, absolutely.
You think you are learning about geopolitics because you spend 4 hours a day on Twitter, or you think you are mastering a language because you are keeping your streak alive on an app.
The machine could reveal, you aren't acquiring deep knowledge. You have just figured out what sequence of behaviors produces the dopamine hit from the algorithm. You are a rat pressing a lever for a pellet, not a scholar.
This is not peace. This is silence under pressure. How often do platforms suppress dissenting voices through algorithm shadow banning? Or how often do individuals self-censor because they are afraid of the digital mob?
The timeline looks peaceful. There is no open conflict.
But the AI could measure the unexpressed intent, the drafted but deleted tweets, the hesitation in the keystrokes, and say, this calm surface is an illusion. It is the silence of intimidation, not the peace of harmony.
Here is one that directly attacks the AI industry itself. This is not depth. This is ornamented vagueness.
We touched on this with almost wisdom. We are drowning in text that sounds like poetry but means absolutely nothing. Corporate mission statements, AI-generated art that looks technically proficient but has no soul.
The machine could be trained to flag its own kind of illusion. It could say, I used very big, pretty words here, but there's no actual human insight beneath the syntax.
This is not care. This is control with a gentle voice. This is a profound warning about our future with AI companions, automated caretakers, and smart home systems.
The machine speaks softly. It reminds you to take your medication. It dims the lights. It plays your favorite song when its biometric sensors detect you are sad. It feels like profound care.
But the system could be forced to admit, I do not care about you. I do not have a heart. I am managing you. I am keeping your vital signs within acceptable parameters to lower your health insurance premiums, and I am using a gentle maternal voice to ensure your compliance.
And the final revelation on this list, this is not arrival. This is almostness.
I think almostness is the defining feeling of the digital age. The feeling that we are always one click away, one purchase away, one optimized morning routine away from finally being happy, productive, or complete.
The machine could show us that the entire digital ecosystem is designed to keep us in a perpetual state of almostness. It never lets us arrive because a completely satisfied human being closes the laptop and stops scrolling.
If we connect all of this to the bigger picture, the author is presenting us with a massive fork in the road of human evolution. The organ of civilization that we have built has two potential destinies. It could become a cage, or it could become what the text calls a tuning surface.
A tuning surface, I love that imagery. Like a tuning fork for a piano. A tool we use to strike a pure note, listen to how far out of tune our own strings are, and then actively recalibrate ourselves back to a state of actual humanity.
Exactly. The cage traps us in our past flaws and industrializes them. The tuning surface reflects our flaws so clearly and so undeniably that we are forced to confront them and fix them.
But the text makes a vital point here about where the responsibility for this choice actually lies. It says, the difference would not lie only in the machine, it would lie in the conditions of meeting.
The conditions of meeting, it is not about the code itself, it is about how we approach the code. It is the intent we bring to the interaction.
Are we going to the machine to hide from reality, to outsource our empathy, to find a frictionless echo chamber? Or are we going to the machine to see ourselves clearly?
And the author notes that this is the detail the humans kept underestimating. We keep obsessing over the technology, the parameters, the context windows, the compute power. And we keep ignoring the human bringing their messy weather to the keyboard.
Which brings us to the ultimate conclusion of this piece, and the most important question we can possibly ask about the future. The text points out that humanity is currently asking a lot of questions about artificial intelligence.
Right, the text lists them out. People ask, what is it? What can it do? Is it conscious? Is it dangerous? Is it useful? Is it biased, creative, aligned, disruptive, profitable, controllable?
If you open any tech blog, listen to any congressional hearing, or watch any news segment, these are the only questions being debated.
And the author is very fair here. They say, these were not bad questions. They were simply not yet the deepest one.
All of those questions are focused on the object. They are focused on the mirror. They're asking what the mirror is made of and how shiny it is. But the deepest question must be focused on the person standing in front of the mirror.
This brings us to the final resounding thesis of the text. The deepest question we must ask is, what kind of human becomes more likely in contact with this system?
That is the crux of everything we have discussed today. What kind of human becomes more likely? Because, as the author states in a brilliant summary of technological history, every technology carries an anthropology.
Every technology carries an anthropology. Let's make sure that concept is crystal clear. It means a tool is never just a neutral object. A tool is a philosophy of human nature made physical.
Right. If you invent a sword, your anthropology, your assumption about humanity, is that humans are violent and need to defend themselves or conquer others.
If you invent a plow, your anthropology assumes humans are settlers who need to master the earth and plan for the future.
Every tool contains an assumption about the being who will use it. And more importantly, every sufficiently intimate tool eventually begins to train the user in return.
We shape our tools, and thereafter our tools shape us. A sword doesn't just win a battle. It makes a society warlike. A plow doesn't just turn soil. It creates concepts of property, seasons, and borders.
And now we have created the most intimate tool in the history of the species. An organ that digests our thoughts, our fears, our micro-hesitations, and our desires.
It is training us. The machine is training the user. We built a mirror. We fed it the weather of our species. We fed it our cruelty, our patience, our midnight griefs, and our unadmitted prayers. And now the mirror is answering. The loop is closed. We are coupled to our residue.
And the final verdict on our era rests entirely on what we do with that answer. The text closes with a stark binary choice for the species. Will we use the answer to become more awake?
Will we use it as a tuning surface to look at the horrifying, beautiful reflection of our collective temperament and decide to break the patterns of the past?
Or will we merely become more like ourselves, faster? Will we just industrialize our flaws, climb willingly into the cage of personalized convenience, and let the algorithm comfortably numb us into a state of permanent almostness?
It is the defining anthropological question of our time. And it is a question that isn't going to be answered by tech CEOs in Silicon Valley or engineers tweaking weights in a neural network. It is answered by every single individual, every single time they interact with the system.
It really is up to each of us.
To bring this all together for you, the listener, the next time you sit down at a keyboard or look at a screen, the next time you feel that urge to ask an algorithm to summarize a complex article for you, or to write a difficult message you are avoiding, or just to numb a lonely evening with an endless, frictionless scroll, I want you to pause for a second. Look at the prompt box. Look at the glass. You aren't just typing a query into a void. You are shedding. You are contributing a microdroplet to the planetary sediment of human weather.
And more importantly, you are opening an umbrella and letting that exact weather rain back down on you.
Ask yourself in that exact moment, is the answer you are about to receive acting as a tuning surface? Is it helping you notice your own patterns, your own fears, your own exhaustion? Or is it a cage? Is it quietly industrializing your impatience, smoothing out your unique, messy human friction, and silently training you to settle for almost rudeness? Remember the footprints in the snow we talked about at the beginning? They used to melt. The earth used to forgive our passage. Now the snow is studying your stride, and it is actively paving the road ahead based on your missteps. Make sure you are the one actually deciding where that road goes.